Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gym. Not Jim. Lucky Star Gym. I don't know what that is, but someone needs to start that. I'm your host, Mike, and with me on the panel today, we have got Dan and Stuart. In this episode, we are going to cover the historic making trip to Stockport in the league. That's about as much positive spin I can make on this. It was historic. And we're going to look forward-ish to the visit of Mansfield Town. Obviously, engagement is important. Please like, join, share the discussions, chat with fellow fans and the rest of it. Join in with the elf on the shelf. I've put a lot of work into that, and there's only 3 or 4 people doing it. But join in. Some of them are good. Some of them aren't good, but it took me a while, so do join in. Let's have a little chat and meet the members of today's group therapy session. Dan, you were on a couple of weeks ago. We played brilliantly the game after you were on. We put 3 past Horsham, 3 leagues below us. But how have you been since then?
I've been all right. Been busy at work, doing live stuff. And yeah, traipsing around the country, watching things. I would like to call it football, but what I saw yesterday was not football. Well, not from the collection of gentlemen in the yellow shirts, at least, shall we say.
You've been practicing all day, haven't you?
How I got through that without swearing or calling people names?
Yeah, you did very well. Stuart, you previewed the Doncaster match, which was a disaster. That went really well. Now I see it's your 18th recently, so you can legally buy a pint.
Exactly.
You can legally buy your first pint. Yeah.
Take the pain away, that does.
Yeah.
Lucky man. Can now no longer watch this lot sober. It's highly advised.
I said legally, Danny.
Self-medicating is the only way to get through this.
Absolutely. How have you been otherwise?
I've been absolutely splendid aside from that match. Yeah, I've been doing good.
Marvellous. Excellent. Okay, well, I tried to find as many positives as possible, went through the club news, and let's just say the youth losing 3-1 at Plymouth is the highlight of Sutton United news I could find at the weekend. Ladies, as I left it with about 5 minutes ago, they were 7-2 down. So they're doing marvellously well. And if you are interested, they are promoting the coach for Gillingham, but I'm not sure how much take-up there will be on that at all. Going to slightly twist the format for discussing the match, mostly because I can't be asked to work out lots of different ways of saying, well, that was shit, that was fucking shit. And apart from the penalty, which was a bit unlucky with a handball, but apart from that, it was difficult. So, guys, this is our joint worst scoreline since the war. Obviously, I've not researched this, but Frankie has said it was a 1972 friendly against Chelsea, so that doesn't really count. And then it was the Norwich game where they were, I believe, 4 divisions above us at the time, so that doesn't really count. This was humiliating. This is a match against our peers. We're in the same division as them. I know they've got a bigger budget and better players and the rest of it, but they're in the same division. I mean, briefly, what are your thoughts on our bit of history?
I suppose it's at least going to go down as one of those, oh, well, I was there moments. A bit like, the the trophy semi against Kays and things like that. I wouldn't call that a positive though. I just it just wasn't good from start to finish, really.
No, I mean, Stuart, you like me, you've had to watch it back, even though in the scoreline. So how did you kind of view it?
Well, I think saving his trip up to Stockport was probably the best thing about that match. Didn't fancy going. I knew it was going to be a difficult match. Didn't think it was going to be 8-0 loss, though.
No. I mean, there's a lot of people giving a lot of kudos to the 94 that went and stayed for the match. So there's a lot of people saying, well played, well done to them. So I'm sure we love that little pat on the head and, oh, bless. But, I mean, we started with a proper defence. Okay, there was injuries, people coming back from injury. You could argue because he was out of position, but probably he's been our most consistent centre-back all season. So where and why did that defence go so horribly wrong? Dan, you were there. What was wrong with the defence?
I mean, they clearly had been given a rocket by their manager. Dave Challoner knows us. He knows Matt. He knows how we play or how we like to play. He'd obviously clearly looked at us, given his lads a rocket and said, hit them hard, hit them early, get in front, and they will go. And I'll be brutally honest, I'd have probably agreed with that assessment if I'd have been a fly on the wall in their team meeting, because we've done that away from home about 5 times now, 6 times, where the timing varies, but generally when you go behind, that's it. You know, the game's gone. We've done it at Doncaster. We've done it at we did it at Swindon. We did it at Aki. We did it at Crawley. They go behind and they go. There's just whether it's they clock off or they just lose their heads or whatever you want to call it. Clearly, that was their thing, because they got right into us from minute 1, and it was, well, this is going to be a tough opening 10 here. I thought the free kick that they got the first goal from was a bit soft, but we just absolutely didn't defend that first serious ball into our box. The guy had a free header. It's 1-0, and from that moment, get-go, they're all arguing with each other, all arguing with the bench, all coating each other off, and from then on, and again, the same problems we've had in a few away games as well this year. Get it down our left, pull the full-back out, because he doesn't have any protection from the guy in front of him at all. You just double up on the full-back, as it happened to be Sam Hart in this case, pull him out and just get balls in behind him. And the amount of times they got to the byline, and well, I think the 3 goals after the first were all to the byline and pull back, and there was like guys queuing up around the penalty spot to just pick a corner. When you to answer the question, what happened is they didn't turn up. They didn't do their basic jobs from minute 1. They didn't mark. They didn't particularly defend zonally very well. And the same weaknesses we've had all season were just completely torn apart again. That's basically it. Same old story.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I've kind of noticed from Matt's pre-match, Stuart. He says very often that what Dan just kind of hinted at there is, oh, the first goal's important. If we get it, we do this. If we let it go in, I mean, does that play into the players' mind? Do you reckon that, oh God, we've gone the goal down now, that's it, we can't win? I mean, there's got to be some mental aspect to this, because we do collapse an awful lot.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a tweet about 4-0 down, and that's when they said they're finally settling in, which, I mean, it's just far too late, being 4 goals down, and then that's when you turn up. That's not good enough. It's just poor performance.
Yeah, that might have been slight tongue-in-cheek because we hadn't conceded a goal for 10 minutes. I think that's where that might have come from. But I mean, individually, you're going to look at some of these players and go, okay, they're not a bad player, and they played well together. But there's just something that isn't working. I mean, don't like naming names or digging people out, but he did have one horrendous mistake, which kind of you've got to talk about. Dino, Stuart, I know Dan's probably going to disagree with me, but I thought him coming out to clear that ball wasn't the worst decision he made.
No,
Because if he'd actually just lumped it upfield or actually controlled it instead of trapping it like I trap it, then he might have done all right. But I mean, that was just for a goalkeeper of his experience, that's just horrendous, especially one who used to play outfield and loves coming out. I mean, what did you think of that situation?
I think that just should have been hoofed just far out, just as far as possible. But he took it under control, and then gave it straight back to one of their players. It was almost an open net after that.
Yeah, I mean, Christian tried, but unfortunately, he was running that way, and the ball kind of went the wrong way. I mean, Dan, did you see it, or were you watching like your hands over your eyes because Dino had gone Aussie walkabout again?
I mean, that's actually the only goal I've actually really dared watch back, to be honest, mainly because I wanted to. I kind of saw it at the time, but I was like, what? I would agree, to be honest, with the ball, the flight of the ball and the way the players were set in front of him, that I would agree with you that his initial decision to, I'm close enough, I can get there first, I can deal with this. That's fine. He's made the call to do that. And I don't disagree that it was a reasonable shout on his half, you know, on his behalf. I just want to get rid of it. At this point, you're 5 down. Already, so he's just obviously everyone's just trying to do that little extra bit to try and not make it worse, and by doing that, made it worse. I mean, having made the decision, he's clearly called for it. He's come for it, and his first touch has to send that ball 60, 70 yards upfield, even if it goes just straight through to the oppo keeper. Doesn't matter, clear your lines. His first touch was it was dreadful, and it just teed the bloke up. All he had to do was take touch, set, and roll it in. It was, but that's Dino. We know from seasons past. Whilst he's a decent keeper for this level, he has that in his locker. He will occasionally have a moment like that where he's trying to do something and it doesn't come off. I mean, he did it at Bristol Rovers a couple of seasons ago, where he came racing out, got nowhere near the ball. He tried it at Stevenage a year or two ago as well, where he took a quick free kick when no one was there, and he passed it straight to an oppo player. So we know he's got it in his locker, but he tends to balance it out with what else he gives it. But yeah, on that occasion, it's just he did it. But once you're committed, you've got to make sure that you deal with that ball, and he didn't.
Yeah, I suppose if he's going to make one of his walkabout mistakes, then at 5-0 is probably a good one to do rather than a 2-1 or something.
That was a comment on the train home last night. It was like, well, if he's going to fuck it up like that, then he may as well do it at 5-0 rather than at 0-0 with 5 minutes to go. So
exactly. So, I mean, again, I'm not picking on him, I promise. But he went down, I think, after 2-0 or 1-0, and he had a bit of treatment. They carried on, and then I was hearing or watching on Twitter with some Stockport fans saying he keeps having a go at the bench, about back and forth at the bench. Did you sort of notice anything at the time, or was that just him complaining in general?
He had a right good go at the defenders in front of him for the first goal. Second, I didn't notice him to go down first goal. I think it was second or third. He definitely kind of just had one of his little minutes where he sits down and whether does he need treatment. I don't think he was particularly injured or anything like that. I think what that was just to basically stop the game restarting as quickly as possible. We were 3 down in like 13 minutes or 14 minutes or whatever it was. And whilst he was kind of getting his treatment, shall we say, Matt was having one of his team talks by the bench with the team. So I think that was maybe a bit, that instance was a bit more of a, just, we need just to have a second here to have a breather. We need to find, we've completely lost our minds. We need to try and slow it down. And it kind of had a help because it broke the momentum a little bit, and it took them about 10 minutes to get another goal. So it had a slight effect. But yeah, I think that's more what that was. I don't think he was particularly injured.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was. I'm not surprised that he was bunnying to the bench because everybody was, and everyone has been doing for most of this season. That's something else we've really noticed is the amount of back chat and gobbing off back to the bench, like debate. Let's just call them debates between the players on the field and the bench. Whereas in past seasons, the lads would just do the job, and you would just hear Matt or Jason barking from the touchline when they wanted something done or changed. But yeah, there's so much, it's going both ways. It's not instructional anymore. It's they're arguing amongst themselves, and again, there's clearly something not right.
Yeah, because that was a few weeks ago with Omari when obviously whatever's happened has happened, but he wasn't seen again apart from off the bench. What do you kind of think of that situation, Stuart? With the players kind of giving it back? I think Smith was having to go back as well at some stages.
I don't really like that. I think that the manager's the man to make the calls, even if they are wrong. But just players yapping from a bench, I don't like it. It's just not team spirit. It's not good. It's got to be like this.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have the occasional one where if it's heat at the moment. If someone had bollocked to you, you're out of position or whatever. But it's that what you've made one tiny mistake and you're being bollocked for it. Sometimes you might go, hang on, just shut up and leave me alone. That happens, But when it's constant, and it has been constant this season.
Yeah, and we've all. I'm going to say this. I'm going to sound great. We've all played. I've stood and pointed on a pitch, but you love it when your opponents start arguing amongst themselves, having a go at the sidelines. You're like, yeah, we've got this. This is great. So yeah, all those things should be just in the changing room. Have your fights on the changing room, training pitch, whatever, but not during a match. I mean, seen some comments about ineffective substitutions. Yes and no. We have no options. I mean, again, we left Omari on the bench, but I'm not entirely sure if you turn around to him and say, right, 7-0, go on, son. Yeah, what do you want me to do? If you thought I could score 7 goals, stick me on at the front of the game, not the yeah. But I mean, we don't have any options. We don't seem to have any options other than the plan A. I mean, one of my frustrations is there was 2 or 3 times when I was watching it back. In fact, there was more than that, where we had a break on, and the fullbacks or the wingers they actually beat a man, and then turned and went backwards. Their first instinct was to go back, not to carry on forward. Because I mean, yeah, we quite like one of the wingers to bomb forward, beat their man, fire it into the box, and then turn around and shout at everyone, going, "Well, where I done my bit. Where were you?" But they're always going backwards. I mean, there was Aiden 2 or 3 times. He beat 3 or 4 players. He had the ball, beat 3 or 4 players, but unfortunately he was running away from the goal towards the centre circle. I mean, that's got to be sort of tactical instructions to be going backwards, or is that just pure lack of confidence? Dan, what do you think on that?
I don't think surely you wouldn't coach a team to play that way. Or, I mean, I get the basics of play the way you're facing. That's perfectly legitimate. If you get into and sometimes Aiden, because he's quite good with the ball at his feet, I think Oppo know that. They like to crowd him. I mean, he had a bit of it yesterday where he would find himself with the ball on touchline and he would quickly have 2 or 3 blue shirts on him. So sometimes you have to, you don't really have an option. You either lose possession because you get tackled, you pass it to nobody, or you protect the ball and you play the way you're facing. That's fine. But if you've beaten an opponent and you've got space or whatever to attack or run into, I don't think you would coach to. I mean, even the most possession-based coaches, I don't think would coach to keep the ball. I mean, the only excuse would be is if he looks up and you see nobody in there. I mean, but I mean, usually either if it's a winger, it's usually Aiden or Harry is somewhere in that vicinity, so you could argue you could play a ball across. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably just confidence and just people are just frightened of making a mistake and making things worse. I think that it might just be simply that.
Yes, I mean, I'll accept that. Stuart is if when they do turn back and pass it backwards, we do keep the ball. But what happens is it goes backwards to Dino or one of the centre backs to then lump it forward to lose possession. So it's like you may as well have tried something if you're going to lose possession. I mean, what are your thoughts? Am I being overly harsh? Or
no, I don't think you're being overly harsh. I think just usually when our wingers do take on and get to a position where they are going to cross it into the box, I just feel like there's not really much output. Going backwards might seem like an option, but then again, just nothing comes from them. It's just sort of delaying the inevitable, that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different to when I think it was the Villa kids when we were playing in the ball. They kept sort of passing it around and people were screaming, "Get it forwards!"
Yeah.
But they were actually doing something with it, which was interesting. But now we just not seem to do anything. I mean, we did have, I think it was 6 or 7 by this stage, but we did have what was described as the best opportunity, the best chance of the match with Josh Coley, and the ball was played into him, and for some reason he positioned himself to shoot to the left rather than to the right where the keeper wasn't, and he kind of almost had an open net. I mean, Dan, you were there at that point. Did that just add to frustration, or was that just it's expected for this kind of game?
Yeah, it was probably one of our most. I mean, there'd been a few minutes where obviously the scoreline was way out of hand by this point. They were starting to give us a little bit of that extra half yard of space that we hadn't had all afternoon. So we were able to start moving the ball a bit more. And we had a couple of moments where we moved it quite well. And that was one of them where it was a little give and go. Aidan got in. I think he might have been offside, I think. But that liner on our side was terrible all day. So he gets into space, gets wide, pulls it back, and I thought he did fantastically well to pull it back with what he had one man to find in a crowd of blue shirts. I mean, they got 5 guys back really quickly, and he's managed to pick out Josh perfectly. And for some reason, he kind of slid rather than, I don't know, maybe he overran the pass or something. But yeah, he just kind of had to slide at it and side foot it, and all he did was push it away from goal rather than, well, hit the target, which was, I mean, he must have been about 4 or 5 yards out. I mean, I couldn't believe he'd missed. It's just, that was, I clearly remember a couple of people going and leaving at that point.
Stuart, what did you
because
think?
it was that kind of miss. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's a train in a minute.
Yeah,
Knock it on the head.
Yeah. I mean, missing, even though he didn't score, it doesn't really affect the match. I mean, maybe the scoreline looks a bit better on paper, having a goal to your name, but I don't think it really does matter.
No.
I mean, you got to be scoring them chances, but it's not. It didn't really play too much.
Right. Well, next point, I feel I have to point out, because a lot of people have said we've had 2 weeks to prepare for this match. I'm like, well, hang on. No, we didn't play the previous week, but we didn't prepare for this match. I know it's only a tiny detail, but we were preparing for the Harrogate match, which didn't happen. But they have had quite a quiet schedule, which Matt has been asking for. Had a good week. I know, Dan, you love this, the good week, good unity, and everything great in training.
Yeah, does my head in.
You've got things like, we're still talking about players joining us late in the summer. We're in December. Then I did see someone say, "Oh, I think the break was too long and it may have affected the players." It's like, well, hang on, we can't say they're playing too much and then they're not playing enough. I mean, I will give as many excuses as I can, but even I thought that's a stretch for me. So, I mean, what do you think about the break? I mean, I obviously I have my own bias, but I'm like, if Morecambe can produce a team to play so well on when they started off the season with 6 players, and they've got all these new players in and they're managing to play well, what is it that we're doing differently to Morecambe? Stuart, I'll let you go first so Dan can filter out some swearies.
Yeah, I mean, saying that we're doing well in training and having breaks and long periods just to recoup and then lose 8-0. I mean, it's just making excuses. I mean, something needs to change soon. I mean, I saw shouts when we were bottom of the league, and it was early on. Well, you don't get relegated then, but it's got to December and we're rock bottom. With our goal difference is awful. Doesn't look like we're going to win, especially with our run of form.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll come on to those thoughts in a little bit. Don't worry, I'm not going to dodge them. Dan, what do you think about the break and the training?
I want to know what they're doing in training, quite frankly, because it ain't. I mean, our set pieces are garbage. Everything doesn't. We're not defending. We're not marking up like yesterday. We make the same basic mistakes week in, week out, especially away from home. Keep being told that we're resilient and we've got great team spirit. We've already touched on it. All the bunnying back to the bench, that ain't team spirit. Resilience, where's that? I'm sorry. There's been so many away games this year where we've done that, we've conceded, and suddenly the 2 or 3 will follow quite quickly afterwards. Like Doncaster, that's not resilience. That's not a resilient team at all, not even remotely close. Yeah, we've had a couple of games where we've dug in and actually applied ourselves. Like games away, like the Wrexham performance was brilliant. I mean, the shift the whole side put in was what we want, week in, week out, to be that organised. And that is resilience. But 90% of the time, it's just, oh, they've scored. That's us. That's been annoying me for weeks now, being told how resilient we are when I'm standing there watching it and we're anything but. As for the break, again, Matt saying I want 4 weeks training into them. Cool, that's fine. But it's the middle of December. We've played 21 games now. If you're still needing that at this point to get across the way you want them to play or how you want them to play, it's too late. It's not going to happen. They either don't want to play that way, they don't like it, or they don't understand. Or there's something fundamental there that they can't, get their heads around. I mean, Stockport had their injuries. They played on Wednesday. They looked fine to me. I mean, it just says a lot that we went there last season, played with 10 men for 87 minutes and only got beat 3-0.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one point I had about the training, and we look good in training, and we've done well in training, and all the rest of it. Who are we training against? We're training against players who aren't in this side. So, of course, we're going to look good because we're playing against players that aren't as good as the ones in the team. So,
I mean, if we look good in training, can I change my season ticket to the training matches then, please?
Yeah. I mean, if I was playing like the under fives or something,
sick of watching the real stuff.
Exactly. I mean, there is another side. Obviously, we played badly, but Stockport, their fans even. I mean, going into the game, so it was odd because they were clear at the top. They hadn't won in 5. We were clear at the bottom, and we hadn't lost in 6 or something like that. And there was actual genuine worry from some of their fans. It was going to be a tough game, and it was going to be like, oh God, you could do us. This is a proper banana skin. And it wasn't like our normal kind of worry of, oh God, Horsham are going to beat us or anything like that. But it was like they genuinely thought with the game on Wednesday and the way they were playing. But then their fans were like, yeah, do you know what? Actually, it didn't matter who was in front of us today. We would have beaten anyone. We would have battered anyone. And Dave Challenger even said in his interview, I feel really bad at Sutton because I actually really like Sutton. I like their management team, all the rest of it. I mean, were they just too good or were we just too bad? Or is it a mixture of both? Stuart, I'll start with you.
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, they looking at the highlights, they did look pretty good that match. But I mean, us not losing in how many matches, it sounds great on paper, but we're only drawing them, or they're getting cancelled. Yeah, we could have stuck anyone out there, and they would have performed the exact same.
yeah, I mean, the stat of not losing in 6 in the league, I think it is, does sound great. But now we have to flip it and say, well, actually, now we've not won in 5 because four of those were draws. I mean, Dan, you were there. We've often said about teams we've played, Dan, actually, they were actually really good. Did you at any point think they're teaching us a lesson, or were you just thinking we've done this to ourselves?
I mean, they were really good. Let's not, lie to ourselves. They are a very good side. I mean, they could leave Tanto on the bench for like 65 minutes because he got a bit of a bang on Wednesday. They could afford to leave him on the bench for 65 minutes, and then but you'd sit the two guys playing a Paddy Madden and Cole Wootton, who are both fantastic players. They're both very, very good forwards, and they just tore us to bits. I agree with some of their lads afterwards saying, "Oh yeah, we'd have beat anyone in the division today." Yeah, you would, because you rattled in 8 against the bottom of the league, and they were quick, they were incisive, they didn't screw around, they didn't mess about, they just got at us and did everything they did was quality, was good quality work. But also the fact that if you're going out there, and Matt and himself has touched on this, is that you have to turn up in these divisions and front up for 90 minutes. That has to be your bare minimum, and we didn't do that. And I touched on it earlier, and I also mentioned this in the preview I did for the county website, where I said there's been a couple of away games where we've lost by 3s or 4s, conceded 3s or 4s, and you've been standing there watching, thinking, if this lot want it, we could ship 6 or 7 here if they really go after us. And for one reason or another, they're either not been good enough, or not been as good as Stockport clearly are, or when they've got to 3 or 4 and we've nicked one back, and it's kind of made them take a step back briefly, and that's killed their momentum. I don't know, but that's been coming, and we've just been lucky that we haven't come up against a side that good this season. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'd have probably have lost anyway if we'd have actually turned up, but we didn't turn up, so
didn't help ourselves.
No,
I mean, obviously, I'm talking at a point that I don't go to away games, so this I have no real dog in this fight.
Lucky bastard.
But I've seen some people, their fans, other club fans, and 1 or 2 of ours say we should refund our fans the match ticket. Now, I always find this really odd because the match ticket is minuscule portion of the match day cost because getting up there,
I can
all the rest
that.
of it,
refund the train tickets.
Yeah, it's like, well, hang on, what are you going to do with that 20, 25 quid? Is that going to go, all right, then that's fine. Then you got absolutely battered. So, Dan, you obviously traipse up and down the country. Is it a meaningless gesture if they say, right, we're going to refund your tickets? We're going to play? I'm not saying they've said they're going to do this, but people have suggested it. If the player said, yeah, we're going to cover your match ticket, does it actually mean anything to you, or would you just go, I'd rather you spend it on the gym and work hard?
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, I'm adult enough, a big enough boy to know I make my choices in life, right? I'm not there because someone made me to be. I make the choice to do this most weeks, where we travel to watch the team. We have a laugh and a drink, and it is generally more than just the football. The football is the reason for making those trips, but there's a lot of stuff around it as well. So yeah, I completely will take responsibility as an adult, a grown adult, that is, I am there by my own volition. That's life. We well know football can kick you in the arse sometimes, as we see. So yeah, if someone was to turn around to me and say, I'll refund your match ticket, not interested. Doesn't mean anything to me. The same with if they said, I'll refund your train, again, I don't want that. To be very honest, I said my piece at full time. And that was recompense enough for me. Thank you. Got it off my chest. Move on.
Well, I could. I'm not suggesting they should do it, because you're quite right. The 94 people who went up to Stockport kind of knew in the back of their mind we could get absolutely ruined here. But Stuart, I do take your point as well of actually saying would recompense your travel costs, or if people stayed over, but that would be a ridiculous amount that we would want to do. and there's not many other forms of entertainment. This is entertainment, Dan. That you can go, actually, I want all my money back. That was shit. So yeah, it's supposed to be entertainment. Right. I think you said it earlier, Stuart, or similar, that realistically, this doesn't actually change much. The goal difference took an absolute hammering, but I don't think it's going to be goal difference that saves us, if anything saves us this season. Obviously, it's embarrassing. The humiliation factor is there, and obviously, we're all very excited to read all the. It must be great to be a Sutton fan. I must hate being a Sutton fan at the moment. That's top fans. But we're still only 6 points away, which is annoyingly enough for a tiny, tiny glimmer of hope. I know Dan's saying that there isn't any.
It's a Christmas miracle. That's what we need.
A tiny, tiny glimmer of hope that other teams could be crap. Swindon are in the absolute toilet because they're not expecting it. They're expecting a fine, but they could be facing points deductions. And so there could be some absolute ridiculous set of circumstances. But there is a big call and there's a big split at the moment for change in something's got to change, and by that everyone is meaning Matt. So I mean, obviously there's two sides to it. I've said that weeks ago I think we might get relegated under Matt, but we will get relegated under someone else because they've got to come in and sort out all the mess with the players without their own players coming in and all the rest of it. So it's going to take weeks for them to kind of get used to it anyway. What's your kind of thoughts? I don't know who wants to go first. I mean, Stuart, I think you started to kind of mention it earlier. With all the kind of constraints that we've got that we know about, what changes do you realistically think could happen?
I mean, when I went on the BBC to talk about it, I'm still a massive fan of Matt. He's been loyal to the club. He's given us a Wembley final. That's brilliant. But there's a point where you sort of hit a wall, and I think we got to that point. He might have earned himself a relegation. We could go down, rebuild. But I think maybe, you know, pulling a Sam Allardyce trying to save us, keep us in the league, because ultimately League Two revenue's a lot better. It'd be nice to have that bit of money. We've got the players. I mean, on paper, looking at like Aidan O'Brien, he's a Championship, came from Millwall. He should be brilliant. Maybe he might be brilliant under another manager. Who knows? But yeah, I think maybe new manager's the shout for me. No, I think I'm sort of swayed.
Yeah, Dan. I mean, yeah, Stuart mentioned the players. There's one player that we found out the other week who's signed back for Shrewsbury, and Aaron Pierre, who was toilet for us, has gone back up to Shrewsbury. And it's like,
yeah, we were talking about him on the way up on Saturday, because we were sat with a couple of Wombles who were going to Salford, and we were saying, what? Oh yeah, about that Aaron Pierre, yeah. Whatever happened to him? And someone, I think Gareth piped up, oh yeah, he's just signed back for Shrewsbury. What?
Yeah, he's done well. He's got an extension. But what's your kind of thoughts? I mean, the problem I see is obviously everyone knows we shop at the food bank, not at any of the supermarkets, and the problem is we're gambling on players. So Dominic Gates, great player. Clearly, there's something wrong. He's injured. Ryan Jackson, there's clearly something wrong. He's not been fit since the start. So what kind of realistic thing can we change? Because I believe if Matt goes, then so will Jason, Terry, a load of them will leave, and we'd have to kind of restart all over again. So what's your thoughts on it?
It's difficult because, like you say, Matt's as a manager, what he's given to the club and where he's got us is special. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He's an honest bloke. He works hard. He cares. I have no doubt he was sat on the bus home last night from Stockport and it was killing him. I get that. But football is, it's the old cliche, it is a results business. And we're now at a point where I think we've 3 wins in the last 32 league games. I could get behind it if I can see something there, if I can see a pattern, if I can see what we're trying to do, and it's maybe just not clicking. Like when he first came to the club, he had that little bad run, but everyone could see what he was trying to do. We knew we were a player away, or we just needed a good result, get a couple of good results, and they would come. You could see what they were trying to do. I don't see that at the moment. I don't think we know what our best side is. I don't think we have a side that's capable in certain areas. I think the midfield is absolutely abysmal. We just get ripped to pieces week in, week out. We don't rob ball. We can't pass. There just doesn't seem to be kind of a structure you can kind of look at and think, well, okay, that didn't go our way, or if we could get someone in January to plug that hole, we might be, we could kick on. I don't see that. I just don't, and it is sad. It's quite sad. I mean, I watched the Salford game at home, and I think I watched that and was like, what are we doing? What are we trying to do? I mean, I just don't seem. I also don't think the team are able to put performances together on a regular enough basis that will bring positive results, that will bring what we need, which are to win football matches. I mean, we had that little run with unbeaten in 5 or 6 or whatever it was, but we'd drawn, 4 or 5 of them? 4? And it was just, okay, it's better than getting whacked by 3 or 4 every week. Don't get me wrong. That is an improvement. But again, even in that point, that little spell of time, I was looking at the way we're playing and I'm like, I don't see the identity that what I believe is what Matt wants from his side. He's been here with us 3-4 years now. We saw the team when he first started, and like I said, we could see what he was trying to do. The year we won the league, again, you could see that team. You knew its identity. Everyone that played against us knew its fucking identity. They knew what they had to do. They knew that we were going to come, rub our stubble in their faces, tread on their toes, get amongst them. We might be a bit direct at times, but they knew we would put them under pressure, put balls in the box, set pieces would be a challenge. They'd have to stand up to us. And that's gone. I haven't seen that at all this season, really. Only in a couple of games. And we just seem to have lost that that identity, I think is probably the best way to put it. And I just don't see where these results are going to come from. We've basically got to win every home game between now and May to even have a shout. And that ain't happening.
Never.
I know. Stranger things have happened, but I can't see it happening. I genuinely can't see it happening.
There's people sort of suggesting that we need to heavily recruit in January. It worked for Gillingham. Okay.
But they had a billionaire take over and who basically was money no object. So they signed 11 players and flew up the league.
That's the solution. Get a billionaire in.
Yeah,
we're not doing that.
Yeah, but are we?
Do you reckon you could sell Sutton as a lovely part of London? Great to invest in.
It is.
I think you'd literally have to just sell Sutton.
Yeah. But the thing is, do we want to gamble / sacrifice potential long-term future? Is it worth it? Because every club is going to have a cap. And to be honest, at the moment, our cap would be struggling in League 2. If we survive this year, next year we've got to look forward to struggling in League 2 and struggling in League 2. So, I mean, is it worth the big gamble, or is it worth just going, do you know what? Let's go back and have some fun. I know there's a load of money coming next year, but every club is going to have a load of money. So suddenly all the players are going to be more expensive because everyone knows every club's got money. So it's just not going to actually change an awful lot. But I mean, I'm not saying let's just take relegation and move on, but our future is essentially going to be struggling pretty much every season.
We knew that though. We knew that coming into this. No
Yeah.
one was under any illusions. That first season, I think, has maybe fooled a few people that we could punch above our weight more, probably a bit more than we were expected to. I didn't think we'd go straight back down. I thought we would be competitive, but I didn't think we'd be that far up. And I think that first season probably has fooled a few people into thinking that's what we should be doing, rather than stay in this division for as long as we can and develop the club. That's what we need to do. We need to stay here for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, just to get everything where it should be to be a football league, a proper football league club. So yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, if you stay up that extra $500,000 that comes in next year, we're likely to do more with that $500,000 than anyone else is, because it means more to us. It's a bigger input into our revenue. But like you say, that's down to the guys up top. They know what they would know what the point is, what's the risk, what is our razor's edge, if you like, what's our tipping point. Can we go another couple of players if we can shift a couple out, or are we tapped out at the moment? You know, that's on them. Only they can really answer that question.
Stuart's going to give it a go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at the team, what we beat Cambridge on penalties. We had a good cup run for a while. Unfortunate not to draw a better team. I mean, we got Plymouth. That looks shocking. What scares me about going down is then looking at if you look at non-league, how competitive it was last year with Wrexham pushing all the way to 100 points. I think we'll struggle to get back up again. I mean, I'd like to be settled into League Two, a mid-table club, rather than bouncing up and down between non-league and League Two.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, we'll move on, because as Dan said, we've got to win every home game now. And first one of those is nice little easy task against Mansfield, who are doing amazingly well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so you've been on the training ground all week. How are you preparing the players to win this game? Or are you just saying, here you go, lads, it's 20-odd sets of boxing gloves, go batter the shit out of each other, get it all out in the open, and rock up on Saturday and see how you do, yeah? What needs to happen to win this game? Dan, I'll give you first, go on. Is there any changes in defence we can bring in? How do we improve the morale?
I think the pure basics is there needs to be tweaks, but again, we've just got to know who's fit and available. It's not like I could tell you that, oh yeah, we should be playing him at left back instead, because I don't know who's 100% fit. I mean, we started with Hart and Omar on Saturday, and neither made it past half time. From Omar's perspective, apparently that was just because he was 50-50 to start the game, and obviously we just thought, well, he's not going to make the 90, so we may as well make the change. I think that you have to just go back to basics and try and rebound and say, for fuck's sake, don't concede inside 5-10 minutes again. You've got to be there. You've got to still be there at half time in the game, because you can't let these sides get at you early and concede early, because they're not going to give you out in return. Mansfield have lost I think it's one of their league games so far this season. So they're obviously a bloody good side. They're organised. It's stay in the game and see what we get from it. I don't think we'll win a game though. I don't think we'll win it though. I can't really see how we can win in the game.
Stuart, what do you think? I mean, to improve the morale, I mean, I'm surprised Dan didn't mention it, but apparently it was the Christmas party.
Apparently, I don't think that happened in the end, from what I understand. Okay. Funnily enough.
I think what you do to win this match is you call up everyone who played in the fan match and put them on the pitch instead.
Not everyone.
Well, maybe not everyone, but
not everyone.
I think that's got a better chance. No, but I think the only way we're properly gonna get a couple of results now is we've just got to have some spirit. We've got to have something behind us. I mean, the only point where I thought that we might have gone on a run was when completely forgot. It was like the last minute winner, and you saw the player's knee slide into the corner, and that looked like a team spirit. I think the only match that we might actually come away with something controversial is Wimbledon, because everyone seems up for that. Wimbledon away. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't discuss it in the match finish, probably should have, but one thing that really surprised me is on yesterday, there was a severe lack of fouls and yellow cards going around. It's like Harry got one, and I watched it back and I was like, hang on a minute, he's got a yellow card for a high foot and he's caught the bloke on the ankle. So if Harry's foot was high to catch the bloke, both their feet were up at waist height, then surely his feet were high as well, because it was, you didn't catch him low down on the ankle, got him up. But I think, I'm not sure if he was the only one, but there wasn't that many yellow cards. I mean, you can't imagine if Eastie was playing that there wouldn't have been at least one more yellow card. He wouldn't have hung around for a lot of that.
Jamie Collins sliding tackle.
Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, I know it's not right, and I know it's not pretty.
You
football
don't
and all
have
the
kicking the oppo, but you like you say, you want to make sure that you're winning your challenges, and if it's getting a little bit out of hand, break it up and just leave a foot in somewhere where you can just break play up. And
you got to let them. You got to let them know you're there. Yeah,
slow them down a little bit. But I mean, do we think that whatever the problem is with Amari needs to be buried? I mean, I'll be honest. I thought Dion had a great game the other week, but then he was kind of anonymous yesterday.
He never got a chance to get into the game, to be honest, Mike. The game was gone so quickly that it's not like you could really say, you know, he had a chance to impress. So one of the few players I think I'd give a pass to from yesterday.
Fair enough. But who do we reckon we could look to, or are we literally just waiting and hoping and praying that Eastie comes back in January as expected?
Lionel Messi, January transfer window. Erling Haaland, anyone who can put a ball in the back of the net.
And you can tell him we'd ruin those players. It's fine.
Oh yeah, they both get about 5 each in our team. It's the way what we do to the goal scorers.
I mean, is it just another 3 points? Oh, is it just going to be? Oh, we shrug it off. Is it important that it's one of the home games? Is it a must-win game? I love that phrase. Or is it just a case of, hang on, this is another top side? Oh, if we can get anything, is this a free hit? How important is it?
I think it's important that they bounce back with some form of performance. If they were to go out and put out like a performance like we did at Wrexham, where we sit in 2 banks of 4, disciplined, prostrate, don't give anything away for free, cut all the stupid mistakes out, and make them come and actually beat us rather than half beat ourselves like we've done a lot of this season, then okay, you can at least, you've got something to kind of cling on to, and you might nick something. You never know. That's football, but you need to turn up. Full stop. No more, stuff about weeks of training and the schedule and all the rest of it. Everyone's dealing with the same thing. We have to start showing up week in, week out, with just performances, not the odd one here or there, or that was all right, or we were okay second half there. It needs to be 90 minutes.
With a good 30 minutes.
Yeah. That's been the story of this season, really.
Well, I think there was a few games where we had bad 30 minutes. We had a bad 30-minute start, then a middle 30 minutes was awful, and the last 30 minutes was awful. It was like, okay, it was just 30 minutes a game, all right. And then no, we then, instead of making it, we didn't have that. We had a bad 90 minutes.
It's a full 90.
Exactly. But Stuart, what do you think? Is it as important as that we're making out, or is it just literally 3 points?
I think it's a massive match. I think we cannot get battered in this match. It's got to be like losing 1-0, but showing up That's all we're really asking for,
Yeah.
especially at home for the fans.
Christmas.
I mean, I think one thing that would be important, it would be, like I say, just sort of shift in and just see where we are at the end of the game. If you don't show up and you go and get your asses kicked again, like 4, 5, 6 again, where do you go? You can't.
Yeah.
That's just. I mean, I know they're obviously a good side and they're up there, but if you're getting spanked by these teams, then it just shows where you are as a squad. And also your kind of your professional pride. You should be looking to bounce back from a result like that. Like I say, worst league defeat since World War II. So
yeah, and it's also it encourages other teams as well to go, look, they put 8 past them. Let's do this.
Let's get 9.
Exactly. Right. So there is a prediction league that goes on. I think.
Did anyone get any decent points yesterday?
I'm racking up the points. Loss.
Some people put loss Sutton to score 0, so they get points.
That's what I put.
So there's some people on there. But what's your thoughts, Dan? We'll start with you. What's your, because you don't play in the league anyway, so it don't really matter what you say. What's your thoughts on the game next week?
Here's a bit of a free hit because obviously they're a good side, so you'd expect to get beat anyway, given our league position, and obviously with what happened yesterday. I'm just looking for a performance. I'm looking for a reaction. That's it. I'm not going into the game thinking, we've got to win this one. We've got to win them all, really. Because we've got to start doing just the winning thing. So I don't think we'll get anything, but I just want to see a reaction. I want to see some sort of reaction.
Fair enough. Stuart, what do you want to say? I say this to everyone who does the league as well. You still got to enter, and you can change your mind at some point in the week. If you enter on Saturday, don't worry what you say today.
I mean, the obvious prediction would be a 3-0 loss. That would rack up the points. Is probably what I'm going to put. I'm going to be more optimistic now. I always say this, and hopefully the magic works again. I'm going to say 3-0. Harry Smith hat-trick. It will happen. I'm praying on it.
Yeah. It'll happen next season.
Or just a goal from anyone on that pitch,
right?
Would be brilliant.
Well,
Sutton's end, not Mansfield.
I'm going to go 1-1. I can't predict a loss, but I can't quite bring myself to predict a win either. I'm hoping it's a 2023 thing. I'm hoping that we get this 2023 out of the way, which has been a shocking year, and actually everything falls into place for 2024. That's fine. But thank you very much, gents. I said we probably wouldn't get 10 minutes out of this, and we have done remarkably much more than 10 minutes. So we will wrap up this episode of Sutton Podcast. As always, appreciate your attention. I forgot to put my cup here, but there's a cup. I'm holding a cup that says attention. Follow, like, share at Sutton Podcast on social media, and give us your feedback. Subscribe to the podcast, get your reviews in, get those likes on YouTube to stop those people disliking it every time I say something about the women's game, because women's football exists. Just get over it. And next time we thank obviously Lucky Stars Gene. Thank you to both Dan and Stuart. I am hoping that next week I just grab people in the bar to talk about the Mansfield match. Be honest, I might not bother. But I'm hoping to.
Is that a result? Is that definitely a result pending thing?
It may well be, but I'll have my camera and whatnot, and we may well set up somewhere and talk to various people. But I've got no idea of the format. I don't know how it'll be, but we'll give something a go.
I'll be lurking in the bar having legal pints now.
Legal pints, yeah. So come and grab me if you want to say something. It will depend on my mood, as Dan just said. But if it's not, have a great Christmas, everyone. It is very rapidly approaching us. But we will catch up and see you all soon. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
United!